So the second big mistake that I see is people keep their guinea pigs in inappropriate cages. So not only should cages be a minimum of 8 square feet, but there's a couple other things to consider too. You never want to house your guinea pigs outside. They should be inside in temperatures that are comfortable for you. A good rule of thumb is if you're comfortable, they will be comfortable. And so that's usually around 65 to 75 degrees. You know, if you feel like you want to put on a sweater, then your guinea pig, even though they have a built-in sweater, they probably are starting to get a little cold. And the flip side of that is if you're starting to be too hot, guinea pigs also are prone to overheating. They're prone to heat stroke and those kinds of things. So especially if you're transporting your piggies in hot weather, a frozen water bottle wrapped in a sock can go a long way to keeping them cool. But of course, cranking that air conditioning, and just remember, if you're comfortable, they'll be comfortable too. So I said a minimum cage space should be 8 square feet. The kind of cages that we recommend at the LA Guinea Pig Rescue are actually really simple to make yourself. We call them the CNC cages. That stands for cubes and coroplast. If you check out the free guinea pig care guide on my website and you look in the cage setup section, you'll see a video where I explain how to build these cages. They're very easy to build. You just need these grids. The C, the first C, stands for cubes because it's these little grid-shaped things that you would build these organizing cubes out of. The second C stands for coroplast, and it's these big sheets of plastic that has corrugations, kind of like what cardboard is, but it's made out of plastic. With these two things and a bag of zip ties, you can build practically any cage that you can imagine. So you can see back here, and if you watch my video called Guinea Pig City, you'll see that these piggies have an elaborate setup. That's because I have pairs, I have singles, and my singles, they live side by side, but you can see Gary up here in the tunnel. He is able to go from his house all the way over and visit some other piggies and visit his neighbors. So if you can dream it, you can build it with the cubes and coroplast CNC cage setup. So another cage that we recommend, which is a much more simpler, easy thing. Now these CNC cages, you can really snap them together in about 20-30 minutes or less, but sometimes people feel overwhelmed, and at the LA Guinea Pig Rescue, we sell the Midwest cage. There's a number of knockoff cages being made now that you can find online, but the Midwest is the original. It just folds out really easily. It has a canvas bottom that velcros to kind of a metal frame that's very similar to the grids, but it's already pre-made, and it's a minimum of 8 square feet. And actually you can link them together, which is kind of nice. So if you want to expand, or if you want to have piggies living side by side, you can connect them together, you can open them up, or you can just put them side by side. And the Midwest is one of the kind of cages that we do recommend at the rescue. Now, if you want to build your own cage, there are some rules, or there's some things to think about. I would say as long as you are going for an open style cage, that's going to be fine. It's when you start getting into like overthinking it that you can have problems. You never want to give them multiple layers if that means you're going to sacrifice horizontal space. They need a minimum of 8 square feet. So that's definitely something to consider. Don't make them out of a bookshelf or something like that with a bunch of ramps. Piggies don't really want that, and they need to have really good airflow. That's why keeping it simple, the CNC cages are just a simple, easy, inexpensive way to give them the best kind of housing that they need. Now let's talk about what goes in their cage. I have a video called How to Maximize Cage Space. I'll put that right here. And one of the things you want to think about is no matter what you're putting in there, they want to have enough space. They need enough space to run around, okay? Guinea pigs, a lot of times people think piggies are lazy and, you know, they just sleep and eat and that's all they do. But if given enough space, they will run top speed. You'd be surprised. It's called the zoomies, and I'm sure you can find a ton of videos on YouTube about guinea pig zoomies, and there's nothing better, nothing that makes your heart fuzzy than when you see your piggies zooming around and popcorning and really happy. And you can only do that if you give them the appropriate cage. So let's talk about what should go in the guinea pig's cage. Now, every piggy needs some kind of a house, some kind of a hidey to hide in. Now, even if you have a big one where they can both fit in it, it's still appropriate to give each piggy their own house, okay? And then you want a food bowl and a water bottle. Sometimes people like to have 2 food bowls. I think generally speaking, 1 water bottle is fine, but it couldn't hurt to have 2 water bottles if that's okay. You just want to make sure that you're cleaning those out. Just because you have lots of water, you still want to give them fresh water every day or every couple days. You know, you don't want to let that water get stagnant, especially by an open window. Water bottles can even like grow algae and can get kind of gross pretty quick. Now, guinea pigs need a hay rack. We're going to be talking about diet in a second, but guinea pigs need a hay rack because the majority of their diet is hay. So they need something to keep the hay in and keep it from flying everywhere. Some people like a tub. I really love the Snack Shack, and it's a log that you can stuff. People, you know, it's edible, but actually if you keep it stuffed full of hay, you can have hay coming out both sides and the top. I have Snack Shacks in practically every one of my cages, and I've got a number of videos about the Snack Shack, so you can see that in my latest videos playlist. So let's talk about bedding. Now, guinea pigs, this is their home, this is where they live, so they're going to be pooping and peeing, and we can talk about potty training, but generally pigs go where they're going to go. They usually go where they eat and where they sleep, and so you can spot clean those areas more frequently, but it's kind of hard to sort of potty train them. But you're going to want to cover the bottom with some kind of bedding. We at the LA Guinea Pig Rescue recommend kiln-dried pine or fleece. Some other beddings that we find are okay are the paper bedding. It's a little expensive, and in my opinion, when it gets wet, it can kind of smell pretty funky, but it's okay. It's just really expensive. Another bedding that is okay is aspen. Aspen's a little bit more expensive than pine usually. It smells amazing, but it's also not as soft. So kiln-dried pine shavings. Now, this isn't sawdust. These are fine shavings of pine that is made appropriate. It's made specifically for small animal bedding. It's almost always kiln-dried. So check out kiln-dried pine or fleece. Now, when we're talking fleece, we're talking about actually fleece pads. These are fleece pads that have been sewn. It's a layer of fleece on the top and the bottom, and some kind of an absorbent layer in the middle. They come in all shapes and sizes, and you can even sew them yourself. I have a video called Real Men Sew Guinea Pig Fleece. I'll put that here. And you know, this is something that you can do. You can get a little carried away with fleece and fleece patterns, but it's a really fun way to celebrate your piggies and to give them a really cool cage setup. But this is absorbent and it's appropriate for piggies. You don't want to use blankets. You don't want to use just a plain fleece blanket or an old towel. You know, sometimes I see people put puppy pads underneath old towels or just a plain fleece blanket. That's not what you want to do. It's don't fight this. There's a reason why the guinea pig community has arrived at these things. There's a consensus around this type of fleece and this way of making these fleece pads because it works. It will save you time, save you money, save you heartache. So invest in a couple good fleece pads and you'll be surprised at how easy they are to take care of, how easy they are to wash. So it's up to you to decide which one's right for you. Again, go to my free guinea pig care guide. I've got a number of videos about which kind of bedding is right for you and how much work each one of them is. I would generally say whatever your instinct tells you that you should try, either fleece or pine. Try that and see if it works for you, and you can always switch it up later. Generally speaking, people try the pine first and then they graduate to fleece. There are some tricks with fleece. For instance, you don't just put one big pea pad down, one big fleece pad, because like I said, they will generally go where they pee and poop. And if they're soiling just one corner of that fleece pad and the rest is clean, when you throw it in the wash, the water gets all gross, and before you know it, the whole thing's kind of grimy. If you have the larger fleece pad and then you got a smaller one underneath the house or just in the kitchen area, you can roll that one up. You can shake out the poops. You can throw this one in a laundry basket, and when you have a few of these, you can run the wash, and then later you can wash the larger pad that is not quite as dirty and quite as gross. Also, you can rinse these ones off in the sink and wring it out before you put it in the washing machine, especially if they're soaked with urine or they've got poop stuck to them. And you can keep your larger, more expensive fleece pads cleaner that way. And then also, you're peeling it off. You put one of these, I like a small one, you can put it under their house, and then you just take this out every day and you give them a fresh one, and you don't have to wash all that fleece. So there's a video by Skinny Pigs 1 about, are you using your fleece correctly? So that's in the cage section of my free guinea pig care guide. Check that out. So another thing to think about would be pests in the guinea pig room. Generally speaking, the fleece and the pine, if you're cleaning your cages, you want to do a full clean once a week. I usually like to do it once a week because I never know if a spider or who knows what's gonna crawl into the cage. But if you keep your cage clean, you're generally gonna be free of pests. Now, depending on where you live, you might have seasonal pests. Maybe there's a gnat outbreak, or you've got a potted plant that's got a gnat outbreak, and that can be a problem. Incidentally, with gnats, the best thing to do is to actually just suck them up in the vacuum, and then you can let them go outside. That is an easy way to get rid of little tiny pests, flies or other bugs or things like that. Generally speaking, if you keep your cage clean, they shouldn't be a problem. But I do have in my free guinea pig care guide videos about ants and about roaches and about other bugs and how to keep them at bay, but shouldn't really be a problem. We're going to talk about illness in a second also, but guinea pigs don't need flea collars or anything like that, but they do get a drop on the ear or a little tiny bit of paste of ivermectin, which prevents mites, lice, and parasites, and that's something that you can find in the illness section of my guinea pig care guide. I'm going to be saying guinea pig care guide a lot in this video. This video is actually part of the guinea pig care guide, and each page this video will be embedded in that. So this is a reference point, and you can then go to all the other videos that are part of that care guide, and you'll have a comprehensive knowledge of everything that I've learned volunteering for many years at the LA Guinea Pig Rescue. The last thing I want to talk about with your cage setup, or generally where you keep your guinea pigs, we've already talked about temperature. We can talk about humidity. Of course, in the winter, the humidity can really drop. I like to use a humidifier. That way I can guarantee that there's a minimum amount of humidity. I live in a very dry area, and so that's something that's very important, that I keep the humidity up to a minimum amount so that it's comfortable. But making sure that it's a comfortable temperature and a comfortable humidity goes a long way to keeping your piggies comfortable and healthy and happy. You're now ready to go to part 3, diet and nutrition, or check out the care guide for more information. Hit subscribe and the bell notification so you never miss a video and stay up to date.